Thanks everyone. Welcome to episode 24. Today's episode, it's just a live question and answer. My name Jitendra Jha, Salesforce MVP. I am also Senior Technical Architect in IBM. You can follow me on Twitter on Jitendra Jha. So the agenda for today basically is no agenda. It's a live question and answer. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic. If you want, you can ask question directly, or you can post a question in Zoom window and I will take it from there. Don't hesitate to ask any question. And then instead of going on Facebook, I will go on the last few episodes of Path to Code. So basically the first 12 episodes, as you can see, we started with introduction with Salesforce. We also discussed what are variables, data types, and how to use the developer console. Second episode was conditional statements, what are the loops, what different types of the for loop, while loop, and all those. We also discussed basic OOPS concept, like what is interface, abstract classes, and inheritance. And then we discussed episode 6 was DML and error handling. And the previous episode basically was test classes, the best practices around test classes. Episode 7, we went a little bit ahead, and it was kind of the similar. We repeated basics of Apex, and it was a kind of the Q&A session again. You can find the recording on YouTube for that as well. We started integration from episode 8, where we talked about what is REST API, how to use Postman and curl. And the next episode was basically SOAP integration. As episode 8 and episode 9 was all about integration, we thought let's cover the whole aspect of integration where you can integrate even without writing a single line of code, which was episode 10, where we discussed how external services can be used to integrate Salesforce with external system without writing a code. So episode 8, 9, 10 was basically how to use an API from external system inside Salesforce. And for other way around, where the external system wants to access Salesforce, that was episode 11, where we discussed that how can we create an API inside Salesforce and how the external systems can use that. Then we went ahead on the trigger, that what exactly is the trigger, basics of trigger, followed by a little bit advanced trigger concept where we discussed a design pattern. And once we are done with the API basics and the trigger, we thought it would be a good time to move on a little bit advanced topics. And therefore, first we started with very basics of HTML, nothing about Salesforce on that episode 14. Episode 15 was also very basic to JavaScript, no Salesforce concept there. However, the episode 14 and episode 15 was the foundation of episode 16, which was the Lightning Web component. And then starting Lightning Web component basic, we jump ahead and we started a little bit advanced topic, which was event communication between the components. And once we are done with the basics, integration, trigger, and the UI part, we thought let's go on the core of the Salesforce, that is more advanced topic, that what is the difference between synchronous Apex and asynchronous Apex, and what are the different type of asynchronous Apexes. So that was episode 18 and episode 19, which talks about how we can use asynchronous Apex. Episode 20, basically on the feedback of the audience, we thought episode 13 was a little bit heavy. So we went ahead and we did episode kind of 13 again, where we talked about the framework again on episode 20. Episode 21, 22, and 23 was all about design patterns. And you can find all the recordings of all the sessions. You can find the slides on Path to Code. Each episode is a one blog post, and you can ask questions specific to that episode there, or you can go on our YouTube channel, subscribe there, and you can see all the past recordings there. So that's the summary of our journey of the past 23 episodes. And now I will open up for the Q&A. So Ankit, do you have any question?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for the wonderful videos that you guys have posted. I'm running a little behind because I've started late only in the month of July. So I'm still going through all the videos, but the videos that I've gone through so far, I have some questions. So the first question I have is, I've started development just with these videos, and I'm new to that. So I'm started with Apex, and as you go through all these sessions, I see that you guys have moved on to Lightning Web Components, JavaScript, etc. So my question is, if I want to start or get into the career of a developer, should I be learning? I mean, what should be the flow of my learning? Should I just complete the Apex first and then move on to Lightning Components, or I should be learning in parallel?
That's a good question, Ankit. And the answer really depends on the person who is trying to learn. If I were you, I mean, normally what my pattern of learning is, I make my foundations base clear first. So the foundation of everything in Salesforce is Apex. So once you learn Apex, and again, learning Apex, I will say, is pretty easy. You just need to know the OOPS concept, which is the episode 1, 2, and 3. Okay. You need, if you know OOPS concept, or if, let's say, if you're coming from Java background or C# background, or even let's say you had some subject in your engineering or during your undergrad, that will help you. All you need to learn in Apex, I will say, is about the governor limits, what is trigger, and episode number, I will say 18, 19 is pretty important. So 18 and 19 is very unique to the Salesforce platform. It's similar to thread in Java and C#. So my suggestion would be, don't go with the, I mean, if of course you can go to the Apex developer guide, that's a very detailed, but if you don't want to get lost into the detail, what you can do is go on episode 1, 2, 3, 4 first. Okay. 4 is very important. It's just like SQL. SQL version of Salesforce is SQL. Okay. And once you learn 1, 2, 3, 4, my suggestion would be do episode 12, do episode 13, and then do episode 18 and 19.
Okay.
That will give you almost 80% of the basics of Salesforce. And then, of course, you can come back on test classes, which is episode number 5.
Okay.
But I think these episodes should be first.
Okay. So in this list, I am only missing episode 19. Otherwise, I've already gone through, and even I've done the trailheads for those. So I'm feeling comfortable. It's just that between these sessions, because the JavaScript was introduced, HTML was introduced. So I was just trying to figure out like what should be the right. So
I think you can put Java episode 14, 15, 16, and 17 maybe for later part. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, when we decided the sequence of the episode, we didn't really decided in that. I mean, what makes sense in terms of the different sections of the development, that's what we decided. Okay. Now episode number 21, 22, and 23 might be heavier. That is the reason those episodes are at last. I would not suggest to go through those episodes first. Initially, start little bit with the project, understand what is Apex, Lightning Web Component. Maybe after 2-3 months, you can go on 21, 22, and 23 episodes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That answers my first question. Second question I had was on VS Code. I installed it and I've been using it for writing some classes and methods on VS Code. But my question is around, are there any resources that I can use to learn about the tool? Because sometimes I get lost into how to get a new package, or how do you add some functionality, like I have to save something into my org, then I have to explicitly do a right click and then move to org. So, but I've seen that there are some methods which can directly, when I save, it saves to my org. So, I mean, some tips like those. So if there are any good resources that I can refer to for learning more about.
Episode 7,
yeah.
Ankit?
Yes. Yes,
so,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, that's where, I mean, I followed this session, and that's where how I installed the Visual Studio and got to know about it. But if I want to go a next step or a step further and learn more about VS Code, all the different areas, then.
Very good. So yeah, that's a very good question, Ankit. So the episode 7 only talks about Salesforce aspect of VS Code. Okay. But as VS Code is open source, you can do a lot. Python, PHP, JavaScript, HTML. So what we can try to search on the YouTube. Otherwise, what I will do is on episode 7 blog post, I will share some resources that what are the some kind of the primer course on the VS Code. And then there is a one episode, I think in Apex Hour, or I need to find it out, which was only dedicated to the VS Code. In fact, recently there was Apex PMD session. Let me dig into that one, Ankit. That's an action item for me, and I will post on episode 7 those URLs. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And an extension to that question would be, so this is one of the IDEs that's been used for Salesforce development. Are there any other IDEs that you would suggest that we should be using? I mean, I'm very comfortable with the developer console, and I feel that is easier to follow. But for as an industry standard, what would you suggest?
Okay, so actually this was one IDE that I was using frequently, but as you can see, it already shut down on June 1st. So there were actually so many IDs available, right? But right now I see Welkins is there. There is a one plugin for IntelliJ, I guess Illuminate Cloud or something, and then VS Code. So IDE now the limited. Okay, basically what happened is when we had a force.com IDE, there were so many options available, and maybe available now, maybe I don't know. But what I have seen is developers are so happy with the VS Code, kind of the community support they have.
Okay.
I see only 2 other IDs. One is Welkin, and one is a plugin to IntelliJ.
Okay.
Yeah, but this was the IDE aside.io I used a lot initially when there was only Eclipse and no VS Code.
Okay. Yeah, I have few other questions, but I don't want to hijack the session. I don't know if other participants have any questions. Then maybe I can go after them.
Let's see. So I see, does anyone have any question? Pearl, do you have any question? I think Ankit, you can continue. Okay. At the moment, I don't see any question on the Q&A window as well.
Yeah, I don't have many questions. Just one of the questions that I have is about curl. So I was facing some issues with curl, but I mean, I was more comfortable with Postman. So I just wanted to ask questions around that. Like, is it okay? Do I really need to learn more in curl, or is it okay if I just use Postman? Would that solve all my issues? Or
so that's a good one, Ankit. So there is a basic difference between curl and Postman. Sorry. So Postman is a UI tool, and you need the UI interface. Okay, you need to interact with it. Okay. So if anything which you want to do by curl, of course, you should be able to do on the Postman. The only reason I would use curl is if I want to schedule something without any human intervention. So let's say, just an example, I want to see, let's say, try to see the status of some website. Website is up or down, right? So every 1 hour I will pull that website, I will check the status, because that's a shell command, right? So curl can be executed from shell command. I can read the output from the curl and I can do my operation. Another scenario where I used a curl is I wanted to do the performance testing of one of my Visualforce page. It's a long time back. So what I did is I started 40 threads of curl at the same time using my script. Okay, so 40 curls executed at the same time to access my Visualforce page. Now that kind of the testing might be possible in the Postman, I don't know. But I doubt, and that is the reason you might use a curl in very advanced scenario when the Postman is not able to do anything. But it's just a single person, you want to do kind of the integration, some proof of concept quick, Postman is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's all I had. I had some questions on test classes, as I'm writing the test classes. I mean, just because sometimes it becomes difficult writing the test classes when it comes to APIs specifically because you have to mock the inputs. But maybe that's just because I'm new to it and still trying to learn. I get
Yeah,
lost in the syntaxes and the certain things that we just have to copy and paste from somewhere and then build upon that. So yeah.
that is good point, Ajay. Sorry, okay, so basically, if you are new, right, it will take some time to understand the mocking concept. So, mocking concept is basically you cannot hit the actual API from the test class, but what you can do is you can create a pseudo response, and that's where the mocking framework comes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another place where the mocking framework also comes is not only API. So over the time, right, let's say you have a huge org and you have huge test classes.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you try to deploy your code on the production, test classes executes. Okay. If you have so many test classes performing so DML in the each test method, you might end up the deployment time only to run test classes between 30 minutes to 2 hours. In order to reduce that time, few of the test classes can be used with the mocking framework. So instead of actually inserting lead object or account or contact, what you can do is you can use a mocking framework to create a temporary data without inserting any record in Salesforce database. In that way, test class execution could be pretty fast. So I will say mocking framework is really an advanced topic. If you are comfortable with the trigger, if you are comfortable with the Apex class and the test classes, then you should go for the mocking framework. It will take some time for sure.
Okay,
But
yeah.
once you understand the advantage and the concept, understanding concept is very important. That why mock? Why if there is no mock, how your life would be difficult, right? Once you understand that question, you would be easily able to, and like you said, Salesforce is such a huge community. There are n number of ways to find an answer. There are blogs, there are developer forum, there are community, there is Stack Exchange, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you can post question, and I'm pretty sure someone would be able to answer quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the beauty of Salesforce community.
Yeah.
Thank you. One more question. I thought I did not have questions, but as I'm speaking, I'm getting more and more questions.
Sure.
So one place where I wanted to just discuss that how a list or an array works in a for loop.
Okay.
Sometimes I get confused how the result would be, how it fits in.
Let me try to log in one of my developer org, and we can.
Okay.
Sorry. So basically what I will do is Control A. So basically list and array is same in Salesforce. Okay. Either you can say that, okay, integer array, it's a long time I use this syntax. Let me try int array equals to, what do you say? Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and you use a for loop. Advanced for loop I'm going to use. Integer I int array and try to print system.debug. Now, one thing about array is it's a sequential. It will maintain its sequence. It's not like you are adding 1, 2, 3, 4. It is printing some random value. Okay,
no, actually, what I meant was in for loop instead of integer, if it's an S object array. So if we write, suppose account, and then array, and then there is a variable for that. So what I know is that in that case, if the instead of an integer, if it's an s object and it's an array, then we just the loop runs only once, because everything from the right hand side would come into the array at once, and then we get the values. But what I do not know, like how the for loop really works and how value is assigned and how we can use further on.
Okay.
That is
So what I can do is then, okay, I misunderstand the question, but still I need to understand that syntax of array. Normally what we do is list of integer and our life is so easier.
Yeah, I mean, just we can do list, and maybe when in the for loop you can just
Yeah.
call out
Yeah, list and array is the same, right? It respects your sorting order. So let's say I'm saying select name from contact. Okay. And let's try to get only 5 contact. I don't want, okay. And again, is name or full name. Okay. So that's compiled. That means it's good. Where's this one? So now here, what is going to happen is there are 2 ways to write a for loop. Okay. One way to write a for loop is the list of contact is the collection, correct?
Yep.
Now every element in that collection, like right now the 5 element, that element type is contact, right? So every item in that contact would be known as, let's say, C. So they basically what this for loop will do is once you pass any collection here, it is smart enough to know that, okay, I have to start from the index 0 and I can go on. Now all you can do is system.debug, and let's say you're printing c.name. Okay. And if I execute this and I only try to see the debug, you see all the names. So that is one way to do the for loop. Okay.
Right.
Another way to do the for loop is the traditional for loop, which we learned in our grads, which is, let's say, for integer I equals to 0, I is less than, let's say, list of contact dot size, and then I plus plus. Now what you will do is same system dot debug, right? And this time you will say that, okay, I am trying to access the list of contact, but the index, because in the array, so 5 element is there. So it starts with index 0. So that is the reason I started my counter at 0. I'm saying whatever that current, so this for loop will start for element 0, element 1, element 2. And that 0, 1, 2 index will come as I, because that's what we have discussed here, we have declared here. And once you get that particular element, then you will say name. Now, the advantage of this for loop is you don't have to worry about index I. Okay. This would be written in C directly. Right now, you are using the traditional for loop. So there is no C. For this for loop, list is list, right? So another way to, okay, so let me run for this one first. And if you see, it would be same output. What you can again do is, if you don't want for loop, okay, if you already know, oh, I only have few, you can do something like this also. 0.name. Okay. Now you know that, okay, I'm only going to get the 5 index. So I will say 0 of 1, 0 of 2, 0 of 3, 0 of, now you don't want 5, of course you are able to do it. What about if there is 1000, right?
Right.
That is the reason. If you see the line number 3 to line number 7, only thing changing is 0, 1, 2, 3 number. And that is the reason we are having a variable I. And this is exactly working as it is. If I run this log, again, I am going to get exactly same result. Yeah. One thing to understand though is, if I say something like this, guess what is going to happen?
Yeah, we don't have a value on that.
So you will get an exception, right?
Right.
See? And that is the reason, if you use the advanced for loop, you are safe. You don't need to worry about loop. Right. Even in the traditional, let's say if I start with 1, okay, again, I will get an error. Think about it, why I will get an error. because it will end up almost same, right? So if I comment this one, if I go, oh, okay, why no error?
Because it's just starting from index 1 and ending.
Okay. So let's see if I say like this. I made some logical mistake, right? So
Yeah.
now another thing to understand in Salesforce, even though that's not your question, right? If I try to say contact.email, okay? And if I try to execute it, I will get an error saying that you are trying to access an email, okay? But you are not getting an email. So in Salesforce, there is no select star, okay?
Right.
You have to have all column name. If you are trying to access some column which you have not retrieved, so email you did not use, and you're trying to access this, you got an error here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry if I did not explain my question well. If you come down to the for each loop at the end, and after contact, if you add the array sign, so make this make this contact an array instead of just contact variable. It's a list of contacts.
Why would you like to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted, because I've seen this, but I did not know like in what is the use case where we use this.
So the only use case is advanced SQL in for loop. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is, instead of this, okay, that's a very good question. Actually, you're going to a very good topic. If I do something like this, let me see. Let me search. So Salesforce SQL advanced for loop. Actually, if you see, right, even in this case, you don't need to declare an array. So basically what you are doing is exactly same, but internally Salesforce is going to batch it. So, so writing this is far efficient than writing like this. Okay.
Okay.
Was that the question? I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking like, why do we use, sometimes we use a list of the object variable on the left side instead of just object variable.
So let me explain you the scenario. Okay, I can create a scenario for you that why I might use. So let's say I have a map of ID, and then let's say I have a value as a list of integer. MP and equals to new. I'm just making up.
Okay.
Okay. If something like this, and let's say I have list of integer lst1 equals to new list, and I'm having lst1 dot simply add, let's say, number 9. Okay, and then I'm saying, let's do one thing, mp temporary dot put. Now I'm saying that for value 1, let's have lst1. Okay, it's actually ID. Let me make it integer. So basically what I'm doing is, there is a map. In that map, key is integer value, and the value of that my map could be the list of integer. So if I want to iterate now this, so what it will become is, so I have to iterate the key set first. That key set will return integer. Still, I think that is not a scenario which I'm trying to create basically. And now what you will do is mptemp dot get, let's say this key, which will return something like this. But again, that's not your question. Your question is how could, so it depends, right? So how can I see if, okay, let me try something. Let me try. Okay, line number 1, column 4. Okay, this one in the bracket.
So basically in that case, the loop, instead of running for the whole, so see if we are running a list of contacts within the S object contacts, instead of running for, like, if there are 5 contacts 5 times, because we have chosen the S
Limit.
object variable as a array, it just runs once, and all the objects or all the data in the contact object is transferred to the array at once, and it doesn't run through like 5 times. And so if you put a counter for how many times the loop ran, it would just run once, because we have given an array variable on the left side.
Okay, let me try to create that scenario then, what you're saying. So you're saying something like this. Let me comment it out, the code. So let's say you're saying something like this: list of contact. See, it's a select name from contact. Let's say limit is 5, and then let's try to have system dot debug. Let's just print 1. And this is your question, right?
Right.
Exactly. So see what is happening, what you just did. The return type of this is always list. Okay. The for loop expects iterator. Okay. On the left, on the right side. So now if it is already returning list and you are getting it as a list, for loop doesn't have anything to iterate, right? So if you, okay, let me change. If you try to do something like this, lst dot name, think about it, right? If you consider this to the original one, which we started with, something like this, you can do this also, right? Now here you're clearly saying that, okay, I'm doing the SQL, contact is going to return 5 record, and then you are going to have a for loop on this. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Where we can give index and then it will give for every index.
Yeah, either you can have index or you can have something like this, contact C, let's say lst1
list, right?
System dot debug.
Right. So for every, correct.
Let's say C dot name. So see what is the difference between both. Okay. This for loop needs iterator on the right side. You got right. You got right iterator here. But then each element in that iterator, okay, either you can say that this iterator, each element is a contact. That means it is going to run 5 times. But now what you said is it is not a contact. It is a list of contact, which is also true, which is not also wrong. And that is the reason you are only getting one list. You are not getting list of list.
Okay.
So if you get a list of list, then it will run multiple times. But now you have only list, it will only execute once. And this will fail actually. If I try to run execute this one, line number 17. Oh. Here, line number 24, I got an error because there is no, I have to do something like
of 0, 1, 2.
0 or something, whatever, right? Because that's the list. Because you yourself saying this is list. You yourself is not saying this is contact. So at the compile time, Salesforce takes the decision, okay, developer don't want a contact, developer want a list, and Salesforce will go ahead with that.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, even though it's a for loop, but basically what we're doing is just putting the values into a list and then we can use that list.
Right.
So, and that's why I was confused. Like I wasn't sure, like what would be the use case? Why we want to put it in a for loop instead? We can just assign.
I don't think there is a use case, but yeah, in the complex project, maybe not. This is not the right example that having an SQL as a list, but maybe map or the collection might return a list. There is no guarantee. And then what you might have is you will have something like this, for inside for, and then you will say for each contact LST, and then you will have something like this. This is very valid scenario, right? Now what you're saying is, so let's try to run this one. Okay, does it run properly or not? Okay, So what you did is you return SQL. Of course, the question is why you want to do it. No, you don't want to, but just to understand how Salesforce compiler works, right? So you return a list. In that for loop, you are iterating on this list with each contact. And now you're saying, I have c.name. And if you debug now, you have all your values.
Right, yeah.
Now, one thing here, right, in Salesforce, always try to avoid for inside for as a thumb rule. You might end up hitting the governor limit of the heap memory or CPU time limit. Because for within for, just think the permutation and combination, right? Even 2000 by 2000 is a iterating 4000 element is different thing, but iterating 2000 by 2000 is a different story, right?
Right.
Try to combine the for loops.
Right.
Those are all good questions.
Right.
So anyone have any other question? Or Ankit?
No, thank you. Sorry if I mean, I did not have a good example, but just because I had this question, because when I was the
It's a good
initial
question, yeah.
episode,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, feel free to ask any question related to Lightning Web Component, Java component, Apex, anything. Mike, Dharmesh, Pearl. Okay, so I think there is no question. So maybe we would be wrapping up in half time. Until someone has posted any Q&A, let me check one. Thank you, Pearl. If you don't have any question. If you have any admin related question, that's okay. I can try my best to answer those questions as well. If not the development. Okay, everyone. Then I will say thank you and kind of bye-bye, because this is our last episode of our Path to Code series. I would appreciate all your feedback on the YouTube channel, Path to Code. If you think there is some other session you would like to learn, maybe like series of MuleSoft or something, feel free to comment, connect us on social media, or I think there is a question. I will save it. Who have a question?
I think Paul is trying to ask a question. Paul, if you would have to unmute yourself, you can either do Alt A or you can go on to the bottom. And
Pearl, try now. I unmuted Pearl.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So this morning I was in another webinar. Jira, if I pronounce his name correct, he asked a question. We were going through the basic security about OWD, role hierarchy, and all that, right? So he mentioned one question, and I want to get to the answer. So he basically say, every single user required to have the profile, but not role.
Exactly.
Right?
That is
I understand that, but what's the implication if someone do not have the role? So in my mind, then role hierarchy has no effect on this person whatsoever, and whoever on top of, like the manager also, could not benefit from having role hierarchy to see the record and such. But any other thing that I actually have not think about, and can you expand on that? Thank you.
I will say, Pearl, you hit the spot. I will say that is the heart and soul of Salesforce sharing. There is a lot of confusion between profile and the role. And let me see if I can justify that.
Okay.
Before going on anything, okay, let's try to understand what is profile, okay? So what I will do is, I will open the system administrator profile and just scroll through it, okay? And you will understand that profile really is kind of control of your vehicle. Let's say if I say Salesforce is a vehicle, this control of your vehicle complete, how to turn on AC, turn off AC, parking brake or whatsoever. Like you see which tab who can see, okay, what report someone can see, what. So right now, for an example, right, I see these many tabs, right? How many tabs someone should be able to see is profile. Okay. Now there is a one permission which is very dangerous permission is modify all data. Okay.
Right.
So modify all data means if this profile has this permission, there is no impact of role hierarchy, there is no impact of OWD, there is no impact of sharing rule for all the users who are in this profile. Okay, that point is clear. Perfect. Now, perfect. So we are still on the profile. Now there is a section in Salesforce which says sharing settings.
Yeah.
Okay. Now how the sharing settings works is you say in Salesforce, very simple way to say, who can access my record? The word my is very important.
Okay.
My means owner.
Yeah.
Okay. Who, so owner in Salesforce, every object or every record has owner field except master detail. So every record, for an example, if I open, let's say I open contact, or maybe I open contact, okay? And let me open one of the contact, let's say this one. If you go on the detail, you see there is a created by, there is a last modified day. They doesn't mean anything other than just the auditing field. However, there is this field. That's the magical field, account owner. Okay. This decides that who owns that record. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the key standard field in Salesforce. Now what happens is I go in that sharing page again. So again, I said the word my is very important. Who can access my record? So if I own lead, my lead record is accessible to everyone.
Right.
It's a public. Okay.
Right.
My user record is private. Nobody can see it. Okay. My goal record is private. So there's there's three levels: private, read only, read write. How Salesforce works is first you restrict it. This is the page where you restrict it. This is the first landing page. As an admin, you should always come and decide that what is my restriction. Okay. Now the question comes, okay, nobody can see my record, but I want that all the record, all the account in Hartford should be visible to Ankit. Okay. Or let's say all the account in Central, let's say in North America should be visible to Paul. Okay. That means even though my record is restricted, even though my record is private, I want to open this record little bit. Okay. What I will do is I will go on account sharing rule and I will open up. I will add that there are two ways to do it, either based on condition or criteria or owner. I can do. Okay. I will not go much detail.
Yeah.
So so we understand what is profile. We understand what is sharing setting, and we understand what is sharing rule. Again, if someone has modify all data or review all data permission, OWD is not, I mean, for modify all data, OWD is not an impact. For view all data, read write, public read only is not an impact. So anyways, coming back to here. So this sharing setting or sharing rule is only applicable for all the private records. So for an example, whatever I do doesn't matter. Everybody can see lead. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever I do doesn't matter. Everybody can see account. Okay, because I already opened it up. If something is private, if I want to share, this is how I share. That's the use case. Now another use case is so let's say Hartford, all the accounts in Hartford owned by Ankit. And let's say there is a regional manager in Connecticut level, Ankit's boss, Ankit's manager, Ankit's supervisor. You want to open up access that whatever Ankit can see, his manager should be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this checkbox comes into the picture, you see, which says grant access using hierarchy. And this is where role comes into the picture. That's the case.
Yeah.
So,
so if the user does not have a role, then this would not come into the picture.
Yes, if the user does not have a role, that means anybody in higher hierarchy. So I used a manager word, that's my bad. There is a manager field also, so not get confused with that one. There is a role hierarchy. So whatever the role of Ankit, anyone above role hierarchy in Ankit is not a valid scenario because Ankit doesn't have any role.
Exactly.
Okay, so that means this role hierarchy will not come into the picture for Ankit. Now the question.
Yeah, but would there be anything else that if a person does not have role, other than
there might be some minor things here and there, like reports, dashboard, like in opportunity report and the load report. Anywhere where is a concept of hierarchy will not work for that user. So some reports like opportunity reports or the lead reports, they work on the hierarchical. Okay, those will not work because Ankit doesn't have a role.
Okay.
Now
thank you.
I will go one more step for everybody who maybe who is watching the recording. Scenario: why would you not want anybody to have a role? So this is very deep architectural topic behind the scene. Whenever you assign any user as an owner, internally Salesforce does the sharing calculation. Salesforce logs the record. And sometimes you might be able to get unable to log errors, so many errors. So as a best practice, if you have an integration user in your org who is creating millions of record, who is performing millions of transactions, okay, do not assign role to that user. So in that way, everything would be super fast because role means sharing. Sharing means slowness. Sharing means security at the cost of performance. Okay?
Right. Thank you.
No problem. That's a good question.
Oh, it's not me asking it, but I've been thinking about what's more I did not think about. So thank you for
So very good discussions happening. So team, we still have 8 minutes. If anyone have any other question.
Is it okay I ask one more question?
Go ahead, why not?
So I always want to, how should I say? I started by going to Trailhead, right? But then I always feel it's not enough to explain. Like I would never get to have to answer what you just gave me or that kind of explanation on Trailhead, right? But I also feel like I'm not technical enough background-wise to dive into the developer documentation to dig into the details. I just know that when I read some of the admin trail concept, there's something underneath what the background is running, what the things are doing is not explained. How can I go about not getting too technical in the developer area, but enough grasping enough concept as a good admin? Does it make sense? Because I feel like I'm not learning in the right way, not feeling I understand the material enough to feel confident.
Okay, so let me repeat a question, Paul, if I understood correctly. You do want to understand the development, is that right?
I do, but I don't want to be like when I go through the series, sometimes I cannot understand everything about a Lightning Web component. I don't understand JavaScript, and I feel like I don't want to try to learn everything all at the same time while I'm still trying to understand decorative part well enough.
So just to tell you, Pearl, okay, what is happening? So I have so many friends who are my colleague, who are my senior, who are not frequent on keyboards. They don't write code. But at the same time, I will say they're excellent technical architect and the platform architect. Okay. Now I'm talking from my experience. Okay. How you can go to that level, how you can become a technical architect or developer without writing a code is have a pair programming with some developer. Okay. Whenever some developer is writing some code, sit with the developer, okay, and ask him, hey, why did you write it? That's the way one. Now I know not everybody has an opportunity or everybody is fortunate enough to have a developer in their company so that they can sit with the developer and just try to understand what they are writing. Other way to do is to follow the Stack Exchange and the developer community, where where developers ask question how to do it. You really don't need to write a code. All you have to do is go on that post and see what are the answers coming up. Okay. And just by reading an answer, you will know, oh, this is also possible in Apex. Okay. That's inheritance. That's how the things are done. Because alone you would not be able to learn. In order to learn, you need a support from the community. These are the two ways to go ahead, that become a technical architect or become a developer without, or senior developer or maybe a tech lead without writing a code. Another thing you can do is the code review. Okay. So spend maybe few months, maybe few years to understand how the code is written using pair programming. And then after 1 year or 2 years, start doing the code review. Maybe you are not writing the code, but doesn't mean that you cannot do the code review. You don't know the best practice. Okay. And I'm speaking from the experience. A lot of my colleagues who are technical architect, they are not a developer, but they do very good code review.
Okay.
Hey, Pal, Jitendra. Yeah. I just want to add one point here, Amit this side. So I also initially, I also was a very good developer. So what I used to do, I used to go on developer forum. I start contributing over there. I start reading question answer there, because in that way you will not see your own problem. You will see other developers' problems. And once you see how to resolve the way, different person will become and tell you this is a way to resolve the problem. So in that way, you will learn, okay, to resolve this problem, I have 4 different ways to do it. And which one is the best one? So that one you can try in your developer org and learn in that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit, for joining and answering. What else we have? Any other question? Okay, I will not repeat my dialogue this time because I already repeated few minutes back, maybe 15 minutes back. So thanks everyone. It is a great journey. Today we are concluding our path to code, but I'm pretty sure in future we might come up with a new series. Who knows? Okay. Thanks everyone.
And thank you, Jitendra sir, for conducting this session and encouraging us and everyone and leading the team. So thank you so much for your effort.
No problem. Have a nice time, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.